Good morning everyone, and welcome to this week's farming programme at our new time here at 7:30, as it's going to be for the next few weeks on Sunday mornings here on Manx Radio. You'll have gathered from the background noises to this that we're in a lambing shed. We're in the middle of the lambing season and enjoying this glorious weather. Just one or two hiccups, one or two colder nights, one or two showers about, but generally speaking we couldn't have ordered better weather for lambing. And I know at home we usually lamb indoors in the lambing shed, but we decided this year with the weather so good that we would lamb outside, and it really has been absolutely superb. The lambs are more vigorous, the sheep seem better. We're just pushing them out of the field in which they lamb through a gate onto the better grass. They're away and gone, and it's so much easier, and really, as I say, this weather was better than anything we could have ordered. It's helpful in other ways as well. Grass is starting to grow now. Dairy cows are out in many instances, and arable work has gone on apace. All in all, just good for the season of the year. Well, for today's programme, I've come down to a favourite spot of mine. I think I love coming down to this particular area, where we're right out on the northwest coast of the island in Andreas, to my friend, colleague in the Farmers Quartet, colleague Kennaugh in the Farmers Quartet, but sheep farmer and arable farmer here at Bollokinnig at Smale, David Brew. David, we're in the lambing shed. How's it going?
It's going well, I have to say. It's going really well. I mean, as you've already mentioned, the weather has been absolutely fantastic, and it's made the job quite easy, really.
Yeah.
In fact, I was only thinking about it today. I don't think I can actually remember a better spell of weather when I've been lambing sheep.
Well, this is what many of us are saying. I know several people have said that to me. I've said it too. In my farming experience, I've never known a better spell of weather at this time of the year.
No. It makes the job so much easier.
It is. David, how far through are you now in your lambing programme?
We're about halfway. About
right.
Half, about halfway. I mean, I lamb 250, 250, so we're about halfway.
So tell us a bit now. Many of our listeners will not be familiar altogether with how we come to lambing season, but you lamb at this time every year?
Yeah, I'm probably about a week later this year than what I normally am. The reason being, I mean, I try to sort of manage as much as I can by myself, so I actually pushed the lambing date back a week this year because of the school holidays were slightly later, so I could get some help from my son and daughter at lambing time, because they're a great help.
I've been hearing very good reports of them.
Exceptional, yeah. Lauren's very keen. She's walking around the lambing shed now looking for sheep.
and Lauren is 14.
Yeah.
A girl with a hand, of that size, must be tremendous at lambing sheep.
Yeah, and she's not scared to have a go either.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah,
good to see them taking part and helping out.
Yeah.
David, you were telling, I know I've spoken to you before, your sheep are looking exceptionally well here. They really are in this lambing shed. How long have you had them in?
Some of them have been in from January, about mid-January. Basically, I'll go through them and condition score them, and any that's starting to lose condition, probably the older sheep start to lose condition sooner. Maybe sheep that's going to have triplets will start to lose condition sooner, so they'll be brought in the first, and then I'll probably go through them again. Maybe the end of January, beginning of February, bring a few more in, and probably the whole lot are brought in with about 4 weeks to go. They'll be all in.
Now, at that time of the year, this year, now we're here enjoying good weather now, but we didn't enjoy good weather at that time, did we?
No. It's been a hard winter on them, really. And coupled with that, I mean, the quality of the silage has been poor, and I think everybody's quality across the board has probably been poor or
Well,
lower than usual.
You say that, but the first thing I noticed when I did come into your shed tonight was a very good smell at the side. It really did smell very good. But I know, as you know, and as you've rightly said, it was a terrible, terrible silage season, wasn't it?
Desperately hard. I mean, really, the whole summer last year, it was a difficult season, really. Not only from the silage point of view, the harvest and thing. It was just a difficult season, really.
And when we came then to the new year, when sheep were in lamb, it was hard to keep condition on sheep. We certainly found that anyway. In the wet weather.
Yeah, very hard. I mean. It basically means that you have to sort of supplement really the forage sooner than you would think that you would need to or intended to, and I mean obviously that brings with it sort of additional costs as well. So
when you feed them entirely on silage and you supplement that with a protein mix, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean it's basically a homegrown mix of peas and oats, whole peas and whole oats. 40% inclusion of peas. This year, for the first time, I actually done the mix, my homegrown mix, at harvest time in my dryer.
Right.
The first time I've ever done it.
So you used your dryer as a mixer?
I did. And then just on a percentage inclusion, I mean, because obviously it wasn't sort of weighed, but I just done it on a volume percentage inclusion.
Yeah.
And tried to get as near as I thought it would be in weight, 60-40, something like that.
Yeah.
And then just put it into a trailer and then augered it into a bin.
So this must be not only economic, David, but it's also a bit of satisfaction as well about growing all your own food here instead of having to buy inexpensive food. Yeah,
I mean, pretty well. I mean, I do buy in a little bit, sort of maybe to finish some lambs and some creep feed for lambs and things like that, but not too much.
Peas are an excellent feed, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I mean, I've grown them probably for around about 10 years now, and they have been the mainstay really of the protein sort of side of the diet for the sheep.
Do you manage to harvest them every year successfully?
I have done up to now. Sometimes it's not quite as easy as others, but
they can be difficult to harvest.
They can.
We've certainly found that.
Oh yeah.
But we're thinking of going back to them because they're such a useful protein, aren't they?
Yeah, exceptionally good. Yeah, I think they're a crop that you just have to. You probably have to put them at the top of your agenda at harvest time, really.
Yeah.
I think where you're more likely to get problems is where they may be pushed to the back of your agenda, and you think, well, I'll do them last, and of course by that time they're in the floor virtually.
The weather's gone. And the good thing, David, is that the sheep can deal with them whole, can't they? You don't have to mill them.
No, you don't have to mill them. No.
Sheep must have a tremendous digitive system. A sheep, she can deal with whole grains and whole peas.
Yeah, the funny thing is that when you feed them sort of this mixed ration, quite often they'll pick the peas out first, and you'll hear them trying to crunch them. This crunching sound, crunch, crunch, crunch.
So you'll feed them in here, and then when you start to lamb, then you're very well organised in this shed. It's a purpose-built shed, David.
Pretty well, yes. Yeah, it is. It was. The central piece here wasn't purpose-built. I mean, that's just a two basic sort of barns. But I mean, as it's been sort of added to, I adapted it, if you like, to just for this purpose, with feeding aisles for feeding silage.
And that'll all dismantle for cleaning.
Yeah.
Which is very important as well.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So when they lamb, David, and there are sheep actually lambing here now. What's your procedure then for sort of lambing them, mothering them, and then getting them out on grass again?
Well, normally they probably come out of the big pens straight away, really. I mean, they may stay in there, especially if they're young sheep, maybe 10-15 minutes, because if they haven't quite sort of accepted them straight away, it's maybe better to leave them just for a little while and then try and get them out. But generally, I mean, you know, the older sheep will come straight away and go into these little pens and maybe stay there for about 2 days. But the weather we've been having, they've virtually been going out in a day. You know, especially if the lambs are fit and strong, then they're going straight out.
Now, right in front of us, under a heat lamp, is several lambs there. They're your megs. Were they triplets taken off? Breeds taken off triplets?
Yeah. So, some of them are also sort of sheep that's got 1/4.
Right.
Odd ones are.
You would never leave triplets running as triplets?
No, I never have. No, I never have.
Yeah. Some do, and
I know they do.
And some run them quite successfully.
Yeah.
They need good grass and good grazing to.
They do. Yeah.
To carry 3 lambs.
They do. Yeah. Yeah. I have done it once or twice, but I've found that quite often, you know, either the triplets they end up very unthrifty, or you lose one of them anyway.
Well, one will fall behind, and they really do take it out of a sheep, milking to feed 3 lambs, don't they?
They do. So
yeah.
I just took the decision. It was easier to take one on, and then you give the other 2 a better chance.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's right or whether it's wrong.
and your megs, David, I mean, the NFU still run a lamb bank where if a sheep has lost a lamb, you can ring up and find somebody like yourself with a triplet to spare.
Yeah.
Or a meg to spare.
Yeah. But you'll always get, of course, you know, the sheep that has a dead lamb as well.
Yeah.
So
it's not all sweetness and light, is it?
No, of course not. Oh no.
So David, when they go out to grass, then you'll have top dressed for that.
Oh yeah.
And there'll be a good bit of grass ahead of them now.
It's surprisingly though. I mean, although we reached T-Sum 200 quite early this year, probably about mid-February. I think.
Yeah.
And I think I top dressed shortly after that, maybe about a week or so after that, I think. But considering we reached that figure so early, and you know, there was probably a lot of top dressing done early, I don't think it's been particularly early spring.
No. It's well, I was going to ask you, down here on this northwest coast, you're very exposed here, and this northwest wind has come in here quite sharp this last week or 10 days, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Do you think the seasons are getting earlier? Because it would seem from what you were saying earlier, and what I agree with, that the season was quite early, but in fact the grass just hasn't appeared in line with the early start that it had.
No, it had a very early start, and you'd have expected as well this sort of spell of really nice fine weather that we've had. You'd have expected the grass to really have taken off, but it just doesn't seem to at all.
I think we need the soft showers now, don't we?
We do.
Just to sort of you know, make it nice and conducive for growth.
Well, certainly down this part of the world, you know, if we don't get some rain shortly, we'll be complaining.
David, we're still in the first week in April.
I know. I know.
David, I said earlier your sheep are looking exceptionally well. Tell us a little bit about your breeding policy, then the breeds that you run here. Has that changed over the years?
Yeah, it probably has. I probably initially started off with a lot of Suffolk cross sheep, but I don't think I've got any now. There may be 1 or 2, certainly not many. They're all predominantly now crosses, the first cross off a greyface or a Masham to a Texel Tup.
Yeah.
I'll keep the ewe off that.
Yeah.
And then put that back then either to a Texel or a Suffolk. But I must admit, now percentage-wise, I probably got 2/3 of the lambs now a Texel and a 1/3 Suffolk, whereas maybe 2 or 3 years ago it was the other way around.
So what drives you in this direction, David? Is it the market requirement?
Yeah. I just find that you know, percentage-wise, I'm getting better grades. I mean, obviously there's a percentage of Texel in the sheep, only a small percentage, but when they're put back then on the Texel ram, the percentage of lambs that are getting the higher grades, either an E or a U, is higher.
Yeah.
Even though you may end up with a higher percentage of lambs maybe sort of going into the autumn, and maybe even sort of till after Christmas that you might have to finish, because they're probably not quite as early as the Suffolk, but I think they're easier to get your grades.
That's right, and I think we are market led now, aren't we? Particularly in the sheep sector.
Yeah.
And certainly in the beef sector as well, for that matter.
Yeah.
But we really have got to produce now what the market requires, and that's reflected in our price list, of course, and in our grading.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you fall out of sort of the grading system, basically, I mean, whatever little profit was there is totally gone, and you're doing it for nothing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Now, besides sheep here on Bollykinnig, David, you're a specialist cereal grower as well. And I remember coming onto your farm, I think it would be somewhere around TT week last year when Gordon Gatwood visited the island, and I know we brought him to see you here, and we saw some absolutely splendid fields of wheat growing. How's it doing this year?
It's been a difficult winter, really, and autumn and winter for getting, first of all, to get the crops established. And of course, once they were established, they had a prolonged period of just sustained heavy rain, and they really did struggle to get established. You've had sort of areas that just got drowned out. Certain areas, certainly on headlands, I've had to re-drill. Generally speaking, they've had a very hard winter.
Right, but are they beginning to come out of it now?
They're starting to come out of it, but again, a little bit like the grass, they aren't as forward as you would have maybe have expected. They've taken their time to come out of it. They're nowhere near this time of year. You cereal growers will be looking sort of to growth stages, maybe where they're going to sort of put on maybe the first fungicide applications or growth regulators and things like that, and we generally call that T1, and it's growth stage 31.
Yeah.
But I would say it's a good fortnight off that.
Later.
Good fortnight off that.
Will they ever catch up, David, or is it going to mean a sort of a later harvest?
They generally do catch up, don't they?
It would seem so.
They generally do catch up, but I think you probably do. There's always an element probably there of yield that you'll never catch up.
That's right.
That's permanently lost. But the crop itself, you'll tend to find, no matter what the sort of crop stages and drilling dates, you may only have a week to 10 days difference, say, in ear emergence.
Yeah. And down here then, and we look right out on the airs down here, David, don't we, right out to, where do we look to when we look out northwest?
Well, I mean, you're this is the Rue Point Road. This is called, some people may know it as Smale Beach, Rue Point. You're looking down onto the Airs, aren't you?
Yeah.
Hundreds of acres down there.
The reason I ask you, David, you're here in sheep and wheat, milling wheat, I must say.
Yeah.
Do you find that's the two best enterprises for this type of land that you have here at Bollykinnig?
Yeah, I mean, strange as it may sound, people may think that sort of growing wheat on this sort of sandy loam is maybe not best suited, but because probably sort of certainly high yielding feed wheats probably are better grown on clay, heavier land. But milling wheat is a different commodity altogether, really, than feed wheat. You're not looking for, well, I say you're not looking for you're always looking for good yields, but it's not your absolute priority. Your absolute priority is quality.
Absolutely, yeah.
And from that point of view, I think you'll find that probably it's probably easier to attain good quality, probably especially Hagberg, and probably some of your listeners may not know what I'm talking about there. on your lighter sandy loams, because the crop won't. It'll stop its growing
Yes.
quicker, and it won't keep pulling moisture from the soil.
I remember speaking to James Duncan once and asking him to explain to me what the critical level of Hagberg was in wheat, and he said, well, if you get a bad Hagberg level in the wheat, your loaf will be full of holes. And that was his description of it as a baker.
Yeah.
And that's why it is. And the quality really is very, very high, David. The standards are very, very high.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, each season is different, and each season brings its different challenges. Obviously, at harvest time, from the point of view of Hagberg, you want a nice, dry, sunny harvest. Because basically the Hagberg falling number will start to drop off severely with a lot of prolonged rain at harvest time. And what basically is starting to happen is the germination process is starting to happen. And that's what triggers it off in the grain.
So are you quite content to stay with these two enterprises, David? I mean, the whole of this industry is not enjoying a good time at the moment. You're quite happy with staying with milling wheat and with your sheep enterprise?
Well, I mean, I have specialised in those two products and commodities. I've geared my whole business to specialising in those two commodities, and to change then now to another area of production would bring with it the costs that would go with it as well. And
do you ever feel, as a specialist, and I know you're certainly a specialist wheat grower, and obviously here looking at these sheep in this area as well, do you ever feel a bit vulnerable specialising? Do you feel that your business is a bit narrow based, David?
It probably is, yes, but it's got great advantages as well. I mean, every farmer will now find that his time is being ever more stretched, and it's probably the most valuable asset you have is your time, and it's using your time the most efficiently that you possibly can, and that's one of the big advantages. The other advantages is from capital point of view, you're making the best use of the capital that you have employed. But I think time is the biggest factor.
What about the changing situation that we're going through in agriculture, because it is changing dramatically? I think maybe down here I don't know, it's a bit more traditional down here, I think, in Anderson Bride. Would you agree, David? Is it a bit more stable?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I don't know whether it's a bit more traditional. I mean, you have got a lot of specialist farms in this area. But and obviously over the years it's going more in that direction.
But it seems to be evolving in a sort of more regulated fashion than sort of other places that I notice.
Right.
Is that a fair comment, do you think?
Well, it's a job to say, to be honest, because I'm probably a little bit more insular than you, and I probably don't know what goes on too much past Sulby Bridge.
I'm sure you do.
I really don't know. It's difficult. I wouldn't like to say, really, to compare sort of the north to maybe sort of the south, or to the centre of the island.
Well, David, we've talked a lot here in this sheep shed tonight. I suppose farmers down through the centuries have sat and talked in sheep areas at lambing time, but it's a good thing to discuss the ups and downs of the industry right in the heart of it. You mentioned earlier that your daughter and son, Lauren and James, are helping you here. What do you think of the prospects for young people in agriculture then? I
have to say it is very poor. when you look at the returns that's generated for the capital that you've employed, it is non-existent. And you probably find that the average farmer may not be earning what would be classified now as a reasonable or a fair living wage. But I have to say that probably the majority of farmers never went into it for the money, and they're certainly not staying in it for the money because it just isn't there. And you know, I would have to say that probably the majority of people who are still doing it are doing it because they love doing it.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason.
Is that why you're doing it?
I would probably have to say yes,
Yeah.
because
So
I'm not doing it for the money.
And so I would have to say the same, David. and sometimes I know I've come in some nights, something has gone wrong. Goodness knows what it was. You're disappointed, and you're saying, why was I born a farmer? Because that's the fact of it. I think we're called to this work, David. I don't know whether you agree with that or not, but
Yeah.
And the call is very, very strong, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, my father done his very best to put me off. But I would have none of it. It's just what I enjoyed doing.
Yeah.
And
that may not have a financial or a measurable value, but it does have a value.
it has a value in so far as quality of life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's thousands of people sort of going through their day doing work that they can't stand, and
Yeah.
I think that to do something, a job of work that you enjoy doing is something that people really sort of probably look to try and sort of get in their lives. And
I think some of the saddest comments I hear is somebody sort of saying, "I'm counting the days to my retirement."
Yeah.
That to me is a sad comment, and I think in some ways, David, we're sitting here in a super lambing shed with sheep that are really bonny sheep. I have to say that your lambing is going well. We're going through a spell of good weather. This is the upbeat bit of it, isn't it?
oh yeah, you get the downs as well. You're quite
I
right.
know that.
Oh yeah, we could be quite easily been sitting here in a snowstorm.
But it does have a reward in job satisfaction, and that's good for us.
Oh yeah.
Well, David, I'm going to let you get back to your sheep now. Obviously, you'll need to be. Are you with them all night?
Generally, I'll stay up till maybe about 2 o'clock, and then Louise gets up about sort of 6:30. So
Right.
no, we don't stay with them all night.
But
No,
they're not long on their own.
no.
David, thanks very much for talking to us. I've enjoyed coming down to this part of the world, and particularly to Kennaugh to talk to you and to see your very, very tidy farming operation here. All the best for the rest of the lambing, David, and thank you for talking to me.
Thank you, John.